This is our a webinar for the heads of delegations for the Fall Sports Festival. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out this evening to join us for this. If you could please, we'll have plenty of time for questions and all. If you could keep your phones muted as we are recording, that would be great. And there we go. I think everybody who's on the call may know me, but if anybody's listening at home, this is Mike Zarnowski. I'm the Senior Director of Community Sports for Special Olympics Maryland. The purpose of tonight really is to share with you some information about the Fall Sports Festival. We spent a chunk of time with each of the coaches, or the coaches for each of the sports, over the last 3 nights. We'll recap a little bit of that information, but wanted to share some additional information that's specific to some of the things that heads of delegations would do, and then most importantly, give you the opportunity for any questions that you might have. So, kind of dive right in. The overall schedule for the day is delegation registration will start at 7:30. The delegations should be assembling in the Knott Arena starting at 8:30. You can really start it as early as 7:30 when you start arriving. That's fine. The opening ceremony will go from 9 to 9:45. It may not even be quite that long. It'll be relatively short and sweet. The competition will go from 10 till 5. That will vary completely by sport. Some of the sports, such as distance running, weather permitting, will be done by 12:30, 1 o'clock, or even a little earlier, and some other sports may go to varying lengths depending upon how the competition progresses. Excuse me. And then family hospitality will be available in the field house of the Knott AARC. The AARC is the large building that we have there. We'll talk a little bit more about delegation registration on a slide later, so I'll skip past that. Then for each of the individual schedules, and also you will get this slide deck emailed out to you following the session tonight, so no need to furiously write all this stuff down. But we will, for the distance running schedule, or LDR for long distance running, following opening ceremonies will be a coaches meeting. Then you can see the different competitions. They'll go starting from the longer distances going down to the shorter distances. And they should wrap up actually by about noon for that competition. And then they'll do their awards sort of by appointment. They'll be there to report to the awards area by 12:45. And then the awards presentations will begin at 1 o'clock. For the distance running, the awards, as has been the case in the past, will be presented at the central awards area that's in the field house, and again be presented there at that time. There we go. For flag football, and again this is tentative. Again, ceremonies, there is a coaches meeting at the field, so the flag football coaches should all head right down for that. If there is a need for some mini games to division the teams, those start at 10 o'clock, and the competition itself will begin at 11. At this point, we're not sure. We don't think they will be necessary. So if those mini games are not necessary, the actual competition will begin at 10. And again, following this coming weekend, Melissa Anger, who is the lead for flag football, will send out the schedule, and we'd know at that point whether there's a necessary or a need for those divisioning games. And we're guessing at this point for 5 o'clock for the end of competition. It may be earlier, but in theory, weather permitting, unless there's any kind of major weather delay, it should not go past 5 o'clock. For powerlifting, again, similar schedule there. The coaches meeting will begin at 10, then with competition beginning at 10:15. Of course, there is, for those of you who've been there before, powerlifting is held inside the arena where opening ceremonies will have just finished, so there's a little bit of a transition that needs to happen there as well. We'll touch on that in just a moment, too. The tentative end of competition is 3 o'clock. One thing that is not on here that was discussed during the powerlifting webinar the other night is the sports management team for powerlifting wants to look at adding in the squat, which is a third lifting event. Maryland has not offered it. I don't know if we've ever offered it, quite honestly. If we did, if we did. It's been many years in the past. And so between the end of competition and the presentation of awards for powerlifting, and there's a transition period there when while the scores are being tabulated, but the powerlifting team will be doing a brief coaching demo and coaching clinic on the stage for the squat. So coaches who are interested in that, as well as some athletes who may be interested in that, are certainly welcome to come to the for that clinic in preparation for the adding of that event in the 2016 or the next competition year. The tennis schedule, this is very tentative right now. They're still working out the schedule. They had their coaches webinar just a few minutes ago. They wrapped up just prior to this one. So this is the schedule from last year. It likely will change somewhat again with the coaches meeting will still be probably at 10 o'clock with competition beginning at 10:15, but the length of competition is going to be up in the air at the moment until we get all the divisions done and such. There has been an increase also in tennis players, so we're excited about that. But that may affect the overall end. That may go a little later than 4. We'll share that with the coaches and all as soon as that's available.
Oh.
The overall venue map for the facility, to orient you here, this is Route 15, which goes north-south. Up in this direction is going north to Route 140, if you're familiar with the area. Going south down here, it comes down to Frederick and Thurmont and such. Everybody will be coming in this entrance and then coming around here to the parking area. You'll use, in most cases, folks will come in this doorway here, which is this whole complex here is the not ARCC, with the arena on this side, which is where opening ceremony and powerlifting competition will be held, and then we call the field house will be on this side here. That's where volunteer registration doesn't really affect the delegations, but that'll be going on there early in the morning. Family hospitality is in this area, and this is where the awards presentations will be held for the distance running competition and also for tennis. The awards will be held here as well. We'll talk a little bit in a moment about the delegation registration, but for your information, it'll be held in the control center, which is in what's called the spin room, which is on the first floor of the ARCC, basically between the arena and the field house, all the way down here at the back. We'll have a sign there. It's where the registration was 2 years ago, for those of you who were there. Last year, the spin room was not available, and we moved it into the back here of the field house. Again, for those of you who are familiar with it, but if you did check in last year, the spin room is literally right next door to that, right there. Tennis competition, of course, will be on the tennis courts out here. We talked about powerlifting. Flag football will be on the fields where it has been before, and then distance running will be the start and finish area will be here by the track, and we'll see their course in just a moment. The focus of this is really all the events that are going on Mount St. Mary's campus. At the same time, at Fort Ritchie, 10 miles or so away, our cycling competition will be going on. They're basically, while it's all part of the Fall Sports Festival, the cycling competition really is being operated as a totally separate venue. They'll have their own opening ceremony and all, and we will have directions that go between the campuses or between the locations for the folks who do wish to go back and forth. And we do encourage folks, if they have the time, to go over. Perhaps the distance running folks can go over and see it. The cycling venue is really nice. It's a location at Fort Ritchie that we identified last year and was a resounding success. Quick look at the individual sport venues. This again is these are the courses for the distance running. Again, the starts and finishes will all be down here to the, I guess that's to the south of the track, and they'll, as the courses indicate there, the 5,000 meter or the 5K, which will be first, they'll follow the red course around, then follow the blue course, come back around the blue course and do the red course one more time, and finish up here. For the 3,000, it would be twice around the red course. For the 1,500, once around the red course, and then for the 800 rather, it's a different layout, but it's for the yellow. They'd follow the yellow course. And again, these are all marked out on the ground with both traffic cones and also color painted arrows. And we'll have marshals out there as well. And again, we went through that with the distance running folks last night. For flag football, also we reviewed this with them last night. There will be, this is to give you an orientation or to orient you, this is the not ARCC with the arena right here. They'll come down and we'll have a large tent in the middle of this field. And if you could please mute your phone by pressing *6, that would be helpful. I can hear some folks chatting there. But there's a large tent in the middle for shade and for lunch and such, and then there's adjacent to that, it will be a tent for officials, and we'll have 2 football fields on either side. There will be spectator seating in this area as well with some bleachers, but folks are also encouraged to bring lawn chairs, and there is some space, not a whole lot, but there is some space for some pop-up tents that they could bring as well. For the powerlifting venue, again, this will be inside the arena immediately following opening ceremony. They'll use the same stage and transition. There's a this line here is basically a curtain or pipe and drape with the warm-up area here. This is the floor seating that was set up for the delegations. One thing we do ask, and we did ask the powerlifting folks on Monday night, is if you have any members of your delegation who are coming to opening ceremonies and then staying for the powerlifting, if you could, after the opening ceremony is done, please move as far forward, as close to the stage as possible. There are several hundred chairs here that we need to, at some point during the day, pack up and clean up. And while we would certainly not disturb the competition that's going on with the venue, as there are lulls and as there are breaks, we'll have some volunteers potentially start taking down some of the chairs. We can only do that if people don't have their stuff sitting on them. So if that's possible, we would really appreciate you having that, having folks sit a little bit closer to the front following opening ceremony. Then the tennis venue, again, this is the not ARCC here. They can actually come right out the building and walk up here. We'll use these 8 tennis courts that are here on campus. There'll be sort of a control center and staging area under a pop-up tent that'll be set up right here, and then they'll go to their various competitions here. There's plenty for anybody who's coming for the tennis. There is, this is basically a hill right here and becomes a nice little spectator area for folks watching the competition. Registration, again, it will be 7:30 to 8:30 in the control center, the spin room that I showed you on the map just a moment ago. Again, it's literally right down here on the first floor, and again, we'll have signs there. We will have a packet for the head coach for each sport. So if you have powerlifting, tennis, distance running, and flag football, there will be a packet for each. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Howard County has all 4 of those sports, if I remember correctly. So there'll be a packet for each of those. In addition, for flag football, there will be a packet for each flag football team, or I should say, not in addition, but there will be a packet for each flag football team, and then if you have distance running, whatever, there'll be one for them as well. That way, they have all their information together, their credentials, whatever the case may be. The head of delegation can pick up all of their packets if they wish, or you can have your individual coaches pick up. We will not have, as is typically the case, we will not have individual athletes checking in or individual families checking in for stuff. It'll all be done through the head coach or the head of delegation. And then at that time, at check-in, you should be, when you pick up your packets, you should be informing the person who's handling check-in of any scratches that you may have for your delegation. And then we just saw that. For the opening ceremony, again, it starts at 9 o'clock in the Knott Arena. We will again have what we call the representative parade, where each delegation will have 2 athletes and or partners carry in their delegation banner. Please, only 2. In the past, we've asked for the names of the folks ahead of time, and quite honestly, given people showing up late and changes on site and so on down the line, what we're going to try this year is that you, as the head of delegation or the head coach, if it's the head coach who's there, will come to the opening ceremony staging area, which will be in the field house here. And that's literally right across the hallway from the arena. And by 8:30, bring over the two people who are going to carry your banner, as well and with their names. They'll then sit in that staging area, and we'll hold them there until we do the parade. One of the reasons why we have to have this done by 8:30, we can't do it on the fly. Some people may wonder, well, the parade doesn't start till 9 o'clock. Why can't I get there at 8:58? And you can get them in. If you've been to any of our Special Olympics ceremonies in the last year or two, we have athlete MCs, athletes who have gone through the athlete leadership program training for speaking and such, are doing the opening ceremonies and are reading the scripts. Last year, because of so many people showing up late and checking in and changes that were there, it actually caused opening ceremonies to start 15 minutes late, or actually more than that. We need, and part of that is because we need to get the names into the various scripts, and then the athletes need to practice and rehearse those names. And again, the changes were so significant in numbers last year and late and so on. It just was, we think it's going to be easier this way, but you have to have your people there by 8:30 and have them seated there. We'll get all the names down. That'll give the athlete MCs the opportunity to practice the names, to rehearse that through, and be ready to go. If you're not there by 8:30, or if you don't have your people physically there by 8:30, your delegation, while it will be mentioned in opening ceremonies, it will not be part of the parade. So please make sure that they're there. If you want to have someone wait with them in that staging area, that's fine. Anna Albert, who many of you know, is coordinating the opening ceremony along with several of the student leaders from Mount St. Mary's. So there'll be a quasi-familiar face, but someone who definitely is familiar with our athletes. She'll be there. But I can't emphasize that enough. If you're not there by 8:30, I'm sorry, your delegation will be pulled from the parade. Let's see if there's anything else on that. Okay, some miscellaneous stuff. As was the case last year, lunches will be delivered to each sports location. For the distance running, it'll be out at the start-finish line. Flag football, of course, there's the tent. Tennis, there's the staging tent that they'll use there. And then for powerlifting, we deliver them to a section in the back of the arena at that time. Coaches should pick up all of their lunches at once. We'll have at delegation check-in and within their the packets the number of lunches that you're entitled to based on your registration within your delegation. And such, and they can pick them up starting at 11. You don't need to eat right then, but they're available then. If there are any special diets, we'll have the standard, I think it's turkey and ham for the regular, the typical lunch. We'll have a vegetarian option. We'll have a gluten-free option. If there's anything beyond that that is necessary, please let us know. We'll have when I send these out, the slides will either go out tonight or tomorrow morning. When they go out, there'll be a thing on there for you to indicate your lunch needs if there's anything special with that. But again, they should be picked up by sport as a group. And just as a reminder, coaches meetings is a coaches meeting for each sport. And we saw in the calendars there, and again, that was gone over with the coaches. They really need to have somebody there. It should be their head coach. But if the head coach is otherwise engaged or is not available, they should send a representative, and then that individual, or the head coach or that representative is then responsible for sharing that information with the rest of their group as far as that goes. We'll also have the event guide will be emailed out to all coaches, heads of delegations, and area leaders no later than Friday of this week, at least for folks who we have emails for. I mentioned about the family hospitality area. As a reminder, that'll be in the arena, or I'm sorry, in the field house rather. There'll be refreshments. There's information families can pick up. It's a nice little kind of more quiet location that they can take a little respite away from stuff. That said, it is for the families. It's not for everybody. It's not for all the volunteers. It's not for all the athletes. It's for the family members. We really couldn't offer that kind of hospitality for the entire 1,000 or so people that'll be there. And then following the competition or the event on the 24th, we will have we'll send out a link to the evaluation survey. The link is also in the event guide with a live link when you get to the electronic copy of it. It's extremely valuable and helpful to us if you take the time and you have your family members, your athletes, anybody, take the time to complete the survey. It's very short. It's a total of, I think, 12 questions plus a couple what you could call identifiers. All the questions are ratings on a 5-point scale. The identifiers are not, you can provide your name if you wish, but it's really, like in this case, it would be what your role was at the event and what sport was your primary sport that you went to. So they're pretty quick, but it's exceedingly helpful for us. In addition, there will be some students from the Mount who will be going around doing some additional data collection on evaluation and opinions and so on, starting after lunch at this event, so folks can also share their information that way. So that's the basics. I wanted to make sure we covered that information, and then again, as I mentioned at the beginning, the big purpose, I guess, for tonight is if anybody has any questions on any of that information. I should also say you will get a roster later this evening. I definitely will have this out tonight that lists everybody and the events that we have them in. They aren't divisioned at this point, but lists all them, and also lists the folks that are being deleted because they were never entered into any competitive event. So you all have been in GMS and been doing all your registrations, but want to let you know before we delete them on Friday morning of the folks that are there that will be deleted because, again, no one entered them into an event. And then next week, closer to the event, we'll also send you the roster of everything with their divisions, assuming we have the division set. The only ones where we wouldn't have a division set potentially would be flag football if there is the need for those divisioning games I mentioned before. So that said, I'll open it up. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer them for you. No questions. Or if anybody's talking and trying to ask a question, your phone may be muted. You may need to unmute it. Okay, hearing none, I'll again thank you for taking 20 minutes or so of your evening to get this information. Again, want to make sure, just trying to be as informative as we can for folks so that you have as much information as we can give you. Thanks again. If you have any questions, as is noted there, your first point of contact will be your regional sports director, as you see there. So thank you much. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you in about a week and a half. Have a great rest of your